All right. So today we are going to be taking a deep dive into tax planning
Oh, yeah.
and strategies.
Love it.
And, this is something that's super important, I think, for both businesses and individuals alike, because obviously everyone wants to save money on their taxes
Oh, absolutely.
and avoid any pitfalls.
For sure. For sure.
So I'm really excited to kind of dig into these notes that you've shared with me about some of the strategies that you're
Yeah.
thinking about implementing this
Yeah,
year.
absolutely.
Yeah, excited to chat about it.
Awesome. Awesome. So, um, you know, first off, I guess just to kind of get a sense of where our listeners are at, how familiar are you with tax planning? Would you say that you're like a pro, or are you kind of just starting to dip your toes in the water?
Well, I mean, tax planning can be a little daunting for a lot of people, right?
Like,
It can
okay.
seem
Yeah,
very complicated and overwhelming.
absolutely.
But I think it's really important to demystify it a bit and break it down into more manageable steps.
At its core, tax planning is really just about being strategic, about how you manage your finances throughout the year to minimize your tax liability.
Gotcha, gotcha.
It's not just for the wealthy or for businesses.
Right.
It's for everyone. And honestly, even small steps can make a big difference.
I love that you said that because I think a lot of times people think, oh, like, I'm not a millionaire.
Yeah,
And I need a tax plan.
exactly.
But like you said, even small steps can make a huge difference. So for those listeners out there who are maybe feeling a little bit overwhelmed, you know, where do we even start? Like, what are some simple, actionable tips that anyone can use to kind of get the ball rolling?
Yeah, for sure. So, one of the simplest things you can do is just make sure you're taking advantage of all the eligible deductions and credits that are available to you.
Okay.
I mean, there are so many deductions out there that people just completely overlook.
Yeah.
For example, if you're a homeowner, you can deduct the interest you pay on your mortgage.
Oh, right.
That's
It's
huge.
huge. Yeah.
And if you have kids, you can claim tax credits for things like childcare expenses
Oh, wow.
or even college tuition.
Yeah.
So these are just a few examples, but, taking the time to research and understand the deductions that apply to your situation can really add up to significant savings.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing in your notes here that you're actually a freelance writer,
Yes, that's right.
which is fantastic because I feel like that opens up even more opportunities for deductions, right?
Absolutely. Being self-employed definitely comes with its own set of tax advantages.
Okay, cool. So tell me more about that. Like, what are some of the specific deductions that freelancers can take advantage of?
Well, one of the most valuable ones is the home office deduction.
Oh, right.
Since you're working from home, you can actually deduct a portion of your rent utilities, even internet expenses.
That's amazing.
It's a significant chunk of change that you can potentially save.
Yeah, and you mentioned in your notes that you actually have a dedicated workspace
I do.
in your apartment.
Yep.
So that would definitely qualify, right?
Absolutely. As
Hmm.
long as it's a space that's used exclusively for work, you're good to go.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the home office deduction. What else?
Well, another important thing for freelancers to keep in mind is to track all of their expenses meticulously.
Yeah.
I mean, every single business-related expense you incur can be deducted.
Gotcha.
So things like software subscriptions, travel expenses, even the cost of advertising,
Wow.
all of that can be written off.
Okay.
So make sure you have a good system in place for keeping track of your receipts and invoices.
That's a really good point because I feel like as a freelancer, it can be really easy to let those things slip through the cracks.
It definitely can. It's so easy to just kind of throw receipts in a drawer and forget about them.
Exactly.
But come tax time, you'll be kicking yourself if you haven't kept good records.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, so we've talked about deductions. Now, what about tax credits? Are there any specific credits that freelancers should be aware of?
Yeah, so tax credits are different from deductions in that they actually reduce your tax liability dollar for dollar. Okay. So they're even more valuable than deductions.
Gotcha.
One credit that freelancers might be eligible for is the self-employed health insurance deduction.
Oh, right.
Since you're not getting health insurance through an employer, you can actually deduct a portion of your health insurance premiums on your taxes.
Okay.
That can be a huge help, especially since health insurance can be so expensive.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here already, but I'm curious about any kind of like surprising or little known tax strategies that maybe our listeners haven't heard of before.
Oh, for sure. There are definitely some hidden gems out there.
Okay.
One that comes to mind is the strategy of bunching your deductions.
Bunching your deductions.
Yeah, so basically what you do is you try to concentrate your deductible expenses into a single year.
Okay.
So for example, let's say, you're going to need to make a big charitable donation in the next couple of years.
Right.
Instead of spreading it out over multiple years, you could try to bunch it all into 1 year. And that way you can exceed the standard deduction threshold and itemize your deductions,
Gotcha.
which could lead to a much lower tax bill.
Wow. That's a really interesting strategy.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, but it can be really effective in certain situations.
Okay, cool. Cool. Now, I know that tax laws are constantly changing.
Oh yeah, they are.
So how can our listeners stay up to date on all the latest rules and regulations without, going crazy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, staying informed is definitely key when it comes to tax planning.
Yeah.
One thing you can do is subscribe to reputable financial newsletters or blogs.
Okay.
That way you'll get updates on any major changes that could affect you.
Right.
You can also check the IRS website periodically for any new publications or announcements.
Gotcha.
And of course, you can always consult with tax professional.
Yeah.
They'll be able to give you personalized advice and keep you abreast of any developments that are relevant to your situation.
Right. And I think that's especially important if you have like a complex tax situation.
Absolutely. If you're dealing with investments, rental properties, or anything out of the ordinary, it's always a good idea to get professional help.
Okay, great. Great. So to kind of wrap things up here, we've covered a ton of information today. What would you say are the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the main thing is that tax planning is crucial for everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much money you make or what your financial situation is.
Right.
Taking the time to understand the tax laws and implement some basic strategies can really make a difference in your overall financial well-being.
For sure. For sure. So, as a final thought for our listeners, what's one action that you think they can take today to kind of improve their tax planning for the future?
I would say start by gathering all of your financial documents, your income statements, your expense reports, any investment information.
Gotcha.
Once you have everything organized, you can start to assess your current tax situation and identify areas where you could be saving money.
That's a great tip.
Yeah,
I love that. And, as always, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
See ya.